What's up, everybody? It's Polish Pete, and this rod bend happens to be a pretty easy one for me because it's my favorite rods. That's right. It was a requested thing that what were my favorite rods, and that's kind of a, big question, right? There's a lot to unpack there for me because I have a lot of rods. I change my stuff out a lot, but there are some staples that ride with me for years at a time. So I've got some of them here. Kip's weighing some of them right now. But what I was how I landed on my favorite rods, this is six of my favorite rods. These are the rods that I've thought about that in the last year or two or three, they've been the most consistently on the deck of my boat. I've been fishing the most, I've been reaching for the most. Some of them I've had for a while. Some of them we don't even sell here at Omnia anymore, or have been discontinued or didn't sell ever here. And some of them is stuff that I've got in the last year or two that I'm obsessed with. Like, for example, this 843, which is a mag bass in the GLX. I know you guys have heard me talk about it a bunch already. This one here is a medium heavy fast action. It's a 7-footer, full cork handle. That's when you hear the mag bass line up from G. Loomis, usually means full cork handle there. These are some traditional actions, just a 7-foot medium heavy fast action. You're gonna see a theme here developing as I do these, but everybody has their own quirks. Remember, this one's my favorite rods. I'm not saying these are the best rods. I'm not saying whatever, but these are the rods for me that I'm using the most. And they're, like I said, there's a theme we'll unpack here as we go. But 7-foot medium heavy 843 mag bass G. Loomis GLX. This rod weighed 3.9 ounces. And once again, like I say in all the other videos, it doesn't feel like that. This thing feels insanely light. This is the reels I use on it. I put round knobs on my bait casters and my spinning reels a lot. Not some of the ones I'm showing today, but these particular ones are knobs I put on this reel here, so don't get weirded out by what I'm using there. But this is my personal reels that I do fish on, these little 80s on here. So I know, against all the rules, a Daiwa on a G. Loomis. But that's what it is. This is my favorite rod, so let's kick it off with this mag bass from G. Loomis. All right, here we are with my personal 7-foot medium heavy fast action mag bass GLX. And as you can see here, it is what I would consider fast action. The tip section wants to bend. It looks like this rod has a lot of guides on it, right? And it's got more of a traditional old school fast action out of a graphite rod. It does, when you really load it up, get down way into the backbone there, so it has a moderate appearance under full load. But trust me, that tip action is very real up there. Since this is mine, it's not what I think you should use the rods for. It's actually what I do use these rods for. I use this rod a lot, like way too much. As you can see, this rod's pretty new and the corks needs to be taken care of again here. I use this rod a lot for braid to a leader if I'm flipping, so that would be lighter wire jigs. I shouldn't say light wire, but you know what I mean, like compact style jigs. I use them a lot with braid to a fluorocarbon leader. I use this for a lot of moving bait stuff with a single hook, like a swim jig. I do that a lot, and I am a swim jig fisherman. It's one of my confidence techniques throughout the entire season, so I do a lot of that with this mag bass rod. Like I said, I do some flipping with braid to a leader. This would be a great rod for some straight fluoro and some other stuff too, or even straight copolymer or monofilament for some top waters or stuff like that. It's not too stiff for any of that stuff, especially anything with heavier hooks. But like I said, back to that, what I think it really shines at is being a flipping and pitching rod with braid to a leader, or I do like to use moving baits with it, single hook stuff like a swim jig. You could chatterbait fish with it. I know it's not a moderate action glass rod, but you could, trust me. I have. Straight fluoro it and do some moving bait stuff, or even some lighter Texas rig or offshore stuff with straight fluoro as well. Finesse jigs, that kind of stuff. I absolutely will use this rod for that stuff. This is a Swiss Army knife of fishing rods, a 7-foot medium heavy fast action rod. when you're not trying to overthink it and you're somebody that maybe fishes in a lot of other people's boats and jumps around a lot like I do, this is a great rod to own. All right, next up we have a rod that I've had for a long time, and it's one of my favorites, and you'll see another one just like it here shortly. But this is a 701 MFS. This is a Steez XT from Daiwa. I've owned this rod for a very long time. It doesn't come with a hook keeper on it, as you can see. This is one of the ones you got the little Fuji keepers on it. This rod is sentimental to me. I've caught a lot of fish on it. This might be one of the rods I've caught most of my fish on that I still own. So the medium power, fast action Steez XT. They don't make these anymore. I love it. As you can see, I've got 4,000 size spinning reel on it. I know I told you guys I'm switching everything over slowly to like the A-Val style round knobs. It's just what I preferred over time. But I don't mind this big handle on this one because, as you can see here, I've got black braided line on here. This is P-Line's new no faded braided line. I got that from, I was lucky enough to fish with John Cox one day, and he was fishing with straight black fire line, and he told me that when he can get away with it, he does it straight all the time, and he doesn't see a problem with it when he's fishing shallow. And he might be the greatest wacky rig fisherman I've ever seen in my life. And so I copied him, and you know what? It worked, because a lot of times I fish with my wife or I fish with other people that maybe don't fish a lot, and I don't even put a leader on this. These are more junk fishing rods to me. I don't have a plan for this rod. It's not a technique specific rod. And I know that's what's hot and that's been the thing for a long time, but this isn't, to me, technique specific rod. It's a 7-foot medium. It does everything. I do a lot of stuff with it. I kind of consider a mid-range to shallow depth spinning rod that I have a line on that I think is quite versatile, that I could fish in thicker grass with, around docks, around things like that. I can put a leader on it if I'm fishing really clear water if I want, and I could fish everything from a wacky rig with it to, I actually Texas rig Senkos a lot, weightless, on this around some heavy grass. I could skip it up under docks. I got a lot of junk underneath them and things like that. I've fished tubes on this. I've fished a whole bunch of stuff on this. I love this rod because I use it for almost everything I need to use it for in a pinch. And no matter where I'm going, what species I'm fishing for, you can catch fish with a 7-foot medium heavy. This, or 7-foot medium fast spinning rod. To me, this is the Swiss Army knife of spinning rods. This thing came in at 4.1 ounces. It has a 4,000 size Tatula spinning reel on it, so it balances it out just beautifully. I don't even feel the tip section of the rod. So awesome rod, super sensitive, love this rod. Let's go bend it. All right, we're here with my 701 MFS medium fast spinning rod, 7-foot medium, the Steez XTs. This is a discontinued model of Steez rod they used to make, and it's one of my favorite rods. And man, look how fast it is. It's not extra fast, but it is fast. That tip section is what bends up there. This rod has a lot more backbone and power than a traditional, I would say the average medium power rod is. I bend a lot of them here, as you know. This thing's got some power. I am a foregrip person, so I put a lot of leverage in them. I use my whole arm when I fight the fish and everything. I like the speed of a 4,000 spinning reel. As soon as I turn the handle, I bend the rod. I love the big drags, blah, 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 blah. Lots of reasons why I like the 4,000s, especially when they're really light 4,000s. So this is, like I said, a 7-foot rod in a medium power to fast action, which makes it insanely versatile. I'm struggling to even think of all the things I do with this thing, because I literally do. I take this rod with me whenever I go fishing with other people, if I get to take my truck if I travel, or my boat. In my boat all the time. I bet you this rod is on my deck the majority of the entire season, because I've always will find a reason to use it, and I enjoy fishing with it. And I know how it acts, I know how it reacts, so my landing percentage is high with it. It's a fun rod to fish, and it's a confidence rod for me. So a 7-foot medium fast Steez rod is one of my second favorite rod so far. Yeah. All right, we're back again with my third of my 6 favorite rods that I own and I fish with. This one is a Steez XT in a medium heavy this time. 7-foot fast action medium heavy. This one here is 4.3 ounces. Once again, I don't even care what the weight says on this, because it doesn't feel like anything, because I have a nice big 4,000 on there again. And my hand's up above the reel seat there. on the foregrip, and I think this thing feels absolutely alive. It's an extension of me. I've owned this rod for a long, long time, and I'll be honest with you, even though I just was talking about this rod's little brother and the 7-foot medium, this is probably my favorite spinning rod I've ever owned of all time. Not to say I haven't picked up lighter rods. I own some more expensive spinning rods than this. I own, rods that are more technique specific, as I was mentioning earlier, that are probably even better values than this thing was. I think these were like $300, $350 or something like that. They don't make them anymore. But this medium heavy, I can do. I use this thing a ton. I use it a lot. Where I live in Minnesota, we have a lot of vegetation here, a lot of like Florida-ish type vegetation, a lot of vegetation. And the predominant vegetation of late for us has been coontail. That kind of goes in ebbs and flows. Usually I look for milfoil. It's my favorite vegetation to fish, but coontail's been where a lot of our fish are relating these days for the areas I fish mostly. And thick vegetation like that requires a little bit more power. And I do fish open hook applications of this a lot, which we call a jig worm. It's basically a shaky head with a hook sticking out. A big Ned rig, they call it that. So that's what I do with this rod a lot, and I use this rod a lot. If I'm fishing around any sort of cover with a spinning rod, I think this rod every single time. Once again, I got it paired up with that black braided line. It's been something I've been doing here for a little while, and I've got a lot of confidence in it. I do put a leader on it a lot, especially if I'm fishing the conditions for that clear water, but I can get away with fishing straight black braid on this thing too, and I have a lot of confidence in it. I've proven that to myself over time. So 4.3 ounces on this Steez XT 7-foot medium heavy fast action. All right, here we are with that 7-foot medium heavy Steez XT, and man, this thing is fast. It's not razor sharp, it's not like a solid tip or anything like that, but it does pull back right away. You are getting some action out there in that tip. It's not as light a tip as that medium was, right? It shouldn't be. It's a fast action medium heavy this time. I like that with this rod. This rod to me is for cover. And that cover could not just mean vegetation, it also means hard cover around a laydown, around docks and stuff like that. If I'm skipping docks like a lot, especially around boat lifts, in the boat lifts and stuff, and around docks with a lot of hazards all around it, I think this rod a lot. If I want to put pressure on fish and move them, this rod is my go-to for that. Once again, I struggle with telling you the technique I use it for the most because I use it for a lot of techniques. If you get the theme I'm getting at here, my favorite rods tend to get away from technique-specific stuff. I think as anglers, that's not a bad thing, especially if you don't have any idea how to do a technique. But if you're somebody that's doing a lot of different stuff and fishing a lot of diverse bodies of water and a lot of different species and things like that, I think it's kind of more beneficial sometimes to just find a rod that you absolutely love and you can do a whole bunch of stuff with. And I'm going to be honest with you, in all my years of working in the fishing industry and buying rods and trying all different rods, especially since I've been here at Omnia, I've tried tons of different rods. These two spinning rods I just talked about are two of the most versatile rods I've ever picked up. I have confidence I can do just about anything I want to do with these rods and it's going to work. And I just think it's because I'm so used to how they perform and I like fishing with them. And that's just as important as having the right technique-specific model as just loving the rod that you're fishing with. So this one here, like I said, is 4.3 ounces. Doesn't feel like it. This thing's, to me, one of the better buys I've ever made and buying fishing rods. All right, back with another one of my favorite rods. And this one here should come as no surprise if any of you faithful followers of Omnia Fishing. This is my Megabass Mad Bull. I got this rod a couple years ago. I have a Steez CT on it. This is my fanciest rod and reel setup, I think, as far as reel and rod. I typically don't. In the past, I've had a lot of really high-end stuff. This is one of the ones I kept, even though I like to try different stuff and be open-minded and try lots of stuff. This is one of the ones that fell into my rotation as being, this is a rod that I always want to have with me. It's always going to be in my boat till I find something that comes along to replace it. And I'll tell you why. This rod is a 7-foot medium heavy, but this is a moderate action. This is one of the only rods that I have maintained in my collection of rods and reels. And I shouldn't say maintained in my collection, I should say remained in my rotation as a player, that rod that I use all the time. And that's a moderate action. I've been very clear that I've struggled with glass rods in the past. I still struggle with glass rods. I have fished some that are a lot nicer now and gained some more confidence in glass rods. But this to me is a graphite rod that has an immense sensitivity, but has that moderate action so that I can do things like fish one of the most popular lures in the world, bladed jigs. This is my bladed jig rod. I do fish a chatterbait with this thing a lot. I skip docks with a chatterbait. I fish around laydowns. I fish around grass. I fish around everywhere I want to fish with a chatterbait, junk fishing. This is my chatterbait rod. I also throw topwaters on this. Just the recommendations for this rod were dead on when they recommended them, and that's what I found my confidence in. If I'm smallmouth fishing a lot of times, I put on the smaller size shower blows, not really the tiny one, but the middle one, 105. I use that a lot on here, spooks on here, poppers on here. I also throw moving baits with it quite a bit. I have, in a pinch, used this rod for also some Texas rigging stuff too. I know it's not really the power and rating. I would say, we'll bend it on the wall here, but I find this to be on the little bit more powerful side of a medium heavy. To me, it's almost a heavy moderate, especially compared to glass rods because it's graphite. But this thing came in at 4.2 ounces. It's really light, and with this reel on it, it feels insanely light. Most of the people here that pick this thing up all say the same thing. This thing feels like a part of your arm. It's an extension of your arm, a weapon, right? One of my favorite rods I've ever bought. Let's go bend the Megabass Mad Bull 7-foot medium heavy moderate action. All right, I'm here with that Mad Bull, the Megabass Mad Bull, 7-foot medium heavy moderate action. I use this thing quite a bit. As you can see, the line I have on here is actually a key part to this. I've been trying it a lot this year. I did do it a ways back, and this is actually a copolymer by Suffix, the Suffix Advance. It's supposed to be a low stretch monofilament type line. I like it because I can throw topwaters, and it helps me in the fact that this rod's pretty stiff. As you can see, it is a moderate action, but it is powerful. This is a powerful rod, but it's got the action for a moving bait. So I wanted to aid that stretchy, more forgivingness with my line. So I'm trying this copolymer, and so far it's been a home run for me. This rod's so sensitive and so light, my landing percentage is really high on it, and I can also switch right over to a topwater or anything that I want to fish like that and not worry about having to change my line out on the reel. Once again, making this rod, if you're catching on to the theme now, insanely versatile. This is a moving bait rod for me that I use a lot, and I can use it in a bunch of different applications. And being the fact that I do a lot of chatterbait fishing and I do a lot of topwater fishing, depending on the time of year and the bodies of water I'm going to, this is a rod I love to have in my boat. Once again, this thing was 4.2 ounces. It's got that moderate action, but it's got a lot of power, and it's a super versatile fishing rod. Okay, back with rod number 5. That's right, I got one left after this one, but this one here is a special one to me because I didn't see it coming, right? It was a rod that I was tasked with using a couple times for a project or two back in the day. I absolutely loved it for lighter line applications. As you can see here, I need to get some new line on here. I've had this line on here for a long time. It's a high-vis braided line here, but I've cut it down a bunch. I need to fill it back up there. But I use this rod a lot. It's a 7-foot medium light fast action rod. This is in the Daiwa Rebellion series. I got news for you if you don't know that, but these rods are going away. They're discontinued, so I haven't been able to get my hands on more of these. We don't have any more of this rod here, so don't yell at me if I'm the bearer of this bad news when you're seeing this, but the Rebellion rods are going to go away. I've had this one for a long time, hence the old Certate on here, and this is the smallest spinning reel really I deploy, other than I have a shorter one of the new Steez rods that I have a little 2500 on as well, but this is a 2500 Certate on here. This rod is my really light line rod. I'm typically fishing 8-pound leader materials. The heaviest I will fish on here, I go to 6. I've even fished 5 on here. I have panfish of this rod in the spring and stuff like that. But this rod to me is an open water, really, really pressured fish. Whenever I find myself needing to go to the really light line application, this is my versatile spinning rod for all those applications. I've had this rod, for, like I said, for a while, and I haven't found anything better than it that I like for just kind of doing everything spinning, finesse-wise. I can throw really, really light line in a really light Ned rig setup. I can do a bunch of stuff that's, like I said, 8-pound test is really where I draw the line on this thing. I'm sure I've put 10 on it for an application on Minnetonka, my home lake, or something like that, or maybe even 12. But most of the time, when I'm going anywhere or fishing anywhere and I want to have a 6-pound line and down presentation, it's this rod. It fights fish phenomenally. I can tell you a lot of my friends feel the same way about this rod. It's not that it's a technique specific rod again, it's that it does everything. And you want to know something crazy about this rod that was out there for about 200 bucks at its prime at full retail? It's 3.3 ounces. This thing's a weapon. It's an absolutely beautiful rod to fish with. And I recommend if you can find one, go get one. They're awesome. Check out this, we'll go bend this one right now, the Rebellion 7-foot medium light fast, sorry. All right, back again with my number 5 rod of my 6 favorite rods. This is my Rebellion 7-foot medium light. Like I said, this is my light, and this thing is, I don't know what it is about the action of this rod, but it is just a fish landing machine. It's a fish fighting machine, I should say. I really feel a lot of confidence when I'm fishing line in that 6-pound test. I actually fish a lot of 8 too. I shouldn't say that light all the time. I bet you most of the time it probably is 8, but I do. If I fish 6-pound tests or down, this rod's what I usually have it on, and I have one other one that's for specific application. But this rod is a awesome, versatile light line rod. As you can see, the action's a little bit slower than the other fast action spinning rods I was talking about, and that might be a power thing, right? It's a medium light power. It is on the lighter powered side, in my opinion. You can get into a good amount of backbone in this rod way back there, but the tip section of this rod will fight fish beautifully. Hence why I use it for a ton of different light line applications. So, finesse rod, I have a versatile rod. That medium power kind of all-around rod, I have a versatile rod for that, and a powerful spinning rod. I have one of those as well, and it's pretty versatile. So as you can see, my 3 favorite spinning rods anyway in this family, of these 6 rods that I'm talking about, are all versatile rods that I've hung on to throughout the years because I have so much confidence in doing anything I want to do with them just based on their line classifications. All right, last one of the 6, and it's another G. Loomis rod. I got to be honest with you, this year it was out of left field on me. I absolutely fell in love with these GLX mag bass rods. This one here is the 844C. This is the 7-foot heavy fast action mag bass rod. I have been using this thing a lot this year. I have put more line on this reel that I have on this rod this year than like every other of my reels combined. Like I can't find anything I don't like doing with this rod. I mean it. I am a big jig fisherman. It's my confidence thing. So I've only fished a couple tournaments the entire year. Did good in the last one thanks to my buddy Ryan there. He found all the good fish there. I fish a jig a lot. It's my confidence thing. And when I say jig, I mean it. It's a flipping jig, it's a football jig, it's a swim jig, it's a finesse jig, anything you think of, big heavy grass jigs. This rod will fish any jig, anywhere, anytime. And I don't care if it is a finesse jig. I fish ball head finesse jigs a lot too. Doesn't matter. I'll use straight fluoro on this thing and fish a finesse jig anywhere, and I don't care. It's not too powerful. It's got an action that is so fish landing friendly that I don't care what the hook diameter is. If I get to set the hook hard and move that fish, this is a rod I love to do it with. Another thing I've learned after paying a lot of attention to Mr. Jason Christie, I did get to fish with him this summer, and I've paid attention a lot to what he does. This rod with fluoro on it is the baddest spinner bait. swim jig, moving bait, like single hook type rod. And I know it'd be probably too heavy for most people. Don't freak out on me, chatterbait rod, but I'm serious. If you're around cover and you want to skip docks or throw around cover at all, junk fishing at all, and with straight fluoro, and you want to set the hook hard and get that fish in the boat without a really long rod, which is what I like to do, this rod is a home run. I might say, even though I've had a lot of the other rods I talked about longer than I've owned this rod might be one of my favorite rods I've ever owned, ever. And it's a lot to say after only 1 year, but I'm just saying, I will own more of this exact this rod. It's one of the ones I can say, I'm not gonna buy more Mad Bulls, I'm not gonna buy more of that other, I will absolutely buy more of these. I often wish I had more than this rod. But if you notice, the theme with all of these 6 rods was, these are all rods that I can do all my favorite stuff with, all my confident stuff with, and I don't have to have a specific rod and action and whatever for it. This is versatile stuff. I own a Bass Cat Sabres, my personal bass boat. Hoping to get a bigger one here shortly, so let me know if you got any deals for me out there. But I love my boat, but it is small deck. It is, and it's narrow too. 7-foot rods don't poke anybody in the chest sitting in my passenger console, passenger seat. I don't have a passenger console, but laying the rods down, they fit nice on the boat. They're a length that I can still cast far, and they're not too long that I don't feel super accurate and tight cover or anything like that. I'm big into versatility. That might not be the popular thing right now, but the best thing about finding your favorite rods is finding your favorite rods you like to use. But before we end this, we need to bend this 844, which is, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it, it's 4.2 ounces. And feels like a dream and is insanely sensitive. Let's go bend this, my possible favorite of the bunch, 844 Mag Bass G Loomis. As I mentioned before, this is just opinion based. These were my favorite rods, versatile rods. This is a 844C, 7-foot heavy. This one's tip is a little bit slower than that medium heavy. I'm not surprised by that, to be honest with you. It doesn't feel like it off the wall, but I would tell you before we bent it on the wall here that I feel like this rod is very, very, I don't want to call it old school, but it's just, and I hate beating this word to death too, versatile, but it's sort of like a mod fast in my opinion, and it can do just about anything. I basically do whatever I want with this rod just based off the line I put on it, and that's why I said out of all the rods I just bent, I will own more of this rod in particular. I find myself wanting to use it for all sorts of stuff, and I can obviously only have one bait on it at a time. So, and I'd like to have one with a couple different types of line, one with a braid line, one with a fluorocarbon, even trying maybe some of the copolymers I've been messing with lately. Love this rod. Like I said, it's a little slower than, obviously it's powerful enough that I can make it look fast, but to tell you the truth, when you load it up, the tip wants to be a little further back there than the other ones. But it's powerful enough I can get a hook in them right away, even with straight fluoro, or even if I did fish a copolymer on it. But this is straight fluoro right now. This is a jig fishing machine. If you're a jig angler, do yourself a favor and try this rod one of these times. But as you can see, Pete's 6 favorite rods. I was asked to do this one, and I'm glad we did. It even pointed it out to me again. What do I like in rods? Really, really nice feeling, sensitive, fun to fish, versatile fishing rods. That's what I like.